everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Music Podcast, where any visitor to this podcast in any time will recognize this fine gentleman right here, Mr. Mike Mostert from In Theory. So great to have him back. In Theory, often billed as a Muscle Shoals-style Led Zeppelin and a swampy, gritty Soundgarden. I love that description. In Theory is all of that and much more. Their latest single, Worlds on Fire, has the band showing a little bit more of a hard rock side. We're going to talk about that and how it was recorded and if they did anything different. The guys will be out on the road doing a handful of dates with Angel, 70s glam band, one of my favorites, Angel, as well as some headlining dates. And Mike, this is exciting stuff, man. It's great to have you.
I appreciate it. That's a big build up there, Scott.
Not big enough, man. You got a lot of. What was that?
But we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys are just a kick-ass band. You've got a lot of stuff going on. Great tour with one of my favorite bands, Angel. You got headlining dates coming up. And a brand new single, Worlds on Fire, which is just a killer, man. It's charting, of course. No stranger to the charts. It's got to be great to see. You put out a single. You're not, we haven't done a full length record. That's kind of the way of the world these days. You put this out, and people are loving it, man.
Yeah, it's just back to back singles. The single prior, staying on my soul, hit number 3. And we're anticipating this one's going to be, in the top 10 as well, based on the spins that are coming in. So, to have back-to-back singles to chart in the classic charts and the active rock charts, and surprisingly, even staying also charted on the metal charts. So to have back-to-back singles, essentially without a label at that point, but as we go on in this conversation, some things have changed since then. But we essentially just did that on our own without a label. To have 2 top 10 singles, and I'm glad that the radio and the fans or people are recognizing or they're picking up on the sound that In Theory is, and no matter what we do, it's kind of cool. People are picking up on different elements. And I know the song means different things to different people, and some people just loving the guitar riff. Some people just love the chorus. Some people love I call it the controlled chaos. I play a solo completely backwards on it, and it almost set the tone because at that time there was no lyrics say for that song, and I played that, and in my mind I said I want controlled chaos. Like I want to be chaotic, but I'm controlling it. And it just sort of tied into when Tony was putting the lyrics to Worlds on Fire and talking about the state of the universe, the world, and so it's very kind of fitting, but that song was like the song that was not supposed to happen, because typically I'll go in and I have all my ideas on an iPhone or on a notepad. I'll have some sort of framework I'm going to go in, and because of my situation of taking care of my family, time is not on my side, and the studio has been very accommodating. So, and there's a few things, and I just have a need to be creative. So whenever I have time, I'll go up to the studio. Can you make time for me? Can you get me in? And on that particular song, it's the first time I really went in with a blank canvas. I had no idea what I was really going to do. I had an idea in the back of my head where I was going to do a cover. I had this thing I was going to do orchestration. I just had this whole idea. And thank God the engineer just talked me out of it. He goes, Mike, do your riff. Just do your riffs, and I'm like, all right, hell with it. I'll just do my riffs. And I said, put on the drum machine or the drum loops, and started with that riff, and we just started building. And thank God that he talked me out of doing something else. And I'm rolling with it, So, but yeah, it worked out quite well, and I think it was quite this song's a little bit more adventurous, I think, than some of our other stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, I heard it, and it's a little bit different. Like I say, it's got a little more of the hard rock uh, basics to it, if you will. Whereas you guys tend to be a little swampy, a little bit bluesy, that slow burn sometimes, which, of course, is so welcomed. When you got a guy like Tony with a microphone, too, Tony Covino, your singer, of course, just. He does that so well. So to hear this, and your playing is very, intuitive to that slow burn blues, and much of the time. To hear this, and I was going to ask you about that solo. It is frenetic and high tension and tight, and it's very different. That is, all of that stuff is different than what we're used to hearing, but yet it's still in that In Theory world, in that realm. Was that hard to do? Keep it, go to the hard rock way of things, but keep it true to the In Theory mission?
No, honestly, I don't find it hard. As we're progressing with In Theory, what I've come to as a conclusion, what really is, In Theory is not necessarily the swampiness, it's the layers of what we do, and bringing in these influences, whether it's a hard rock, whether it's a grunge, whether it's a swampy, whether it's the fact that we can layer all these different things and just put a little hint of it, all these little elements. And that's the one thing that's in every song that we do. How we choose to use, which different influences, obviously goes changes from song to song. But that is, I think, the thing that makes In Theory different than, say, not that I'm saying than a typical rocker, but I think that's what makes us different. There's layers to us, and whether it's Worlds on Fire, Stain, or the River Song, or Heroes, or Promised Land, when you really listen to In Theory, especially in headphones, and I always tell people, listen in headphones, or if you got speakers spread really far, and every time you listen to it, you'll hear something different. Like, listen to the bass only, or listen to how the guitars are shifting, or there's things, and doing with vocally where, producing wise, where Tony's dead center, and then I shifting a little bit over this way, and then all of a sudden his vocals coming back this way. And, that's the best way I can say it. There's a lot of interweaving. And so that's what I really feel what In Theory is about. There's just a lot of layers, and we're not just one dimensional.
No, definitely not. And especially on this track, really, I hear a lot of different things. Like you were saying with the vocals, there's a lot of a vocal effect here. We don't always get that. There's that, not a megaphone type thing, but it's squeezed, it's compressed, and then then we get a full Tony. What was that?
Well, it is a megaphone thing, but what I did with Tony on that, I ran Tony's vocals. You're talking about the introduction.
Yeah, yeah.
I just ran through a distortion pedal.
So cool.
So you take it two pre, and you run Tony through a distortion pedal, and you get that intro.
That's cool.
But then Tony can clean it up as well. He's got so much dimension to his vocals.
Oh, yeah.
So as a producer, I get to have a lot of fun with it. I get to experiment, or I hear things. I'm like, oh, because he can do this, let's try this. Or he just did that. Oh, it gives me option A, B, or C. And again, that's the whole In Theory thing. So and then because of that, then I go into my whole craziness, like, oh, because I like that vocal part there. Now I got to do this other guitar part that are counterintuitive. I mean, and if you broke down the chorus part by part by part, it's actually so much friction musically underneath, but it sounds like a very nice melodic chorus. But if you broke down what there's 3 different guitar parts and there's an acoustic part playing something completely different.
Wow.
And then when there's a like an old 80s, almost like a new wave keyboard in there, that it's in there, you feel it. But if you start, like, you can hear that other, dissident guitar part at the end of song when it's just playing acoustic. It's completely different and match with the other guitars. So there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. And that's, really that's magical when you can get all those things going in the same direction, make it that full sound. When you were in the studio this time around and in this track, are these things that you haven't done before? Did you experiment? Did you do anything different, in terms of like instruments or mic placement or, like the effects running through, distortion pedals, things like that?
Always. There's one I want to talk about on this one, on Worlds of Fire. There's that intro where there's that,
Yeah.
right. So on that, it's actually the drummer hitting, the side of the drum, so it's, then actually, and then I had him playing sticks on a wooden, I don't say wooden floor, wooden wall. So he's doing on the wall. Right. Then I had him like that wasn't enough. Then I had him doing it was a glass candle. We call it the Jesus candle because there's actually a picture of Jesus on it. And he was playing the candle. And then I took an old Ampex box, the 2-inch real top, and then I had him play with his hand.
Same rhythm, right? The same rhythm on each one.
So that's part of like the intro thing, and then like even the those first, I call it cannon, those hits, boof, coming in. That's him doing the 2 toms and then the 2 toms on the bottom, but I have him do it 4 times. And then there's a part where it almost goes gospel-y, and then I just told him from this part out, no cymbals. So that's another thing. I was like, I don't want any cymbals. And then we just put 3 layers of him doing these, drum beats. So stuff like that.
And that's, and that's what makes In Theory. It's really, like you said, so it's that layering. And, you mentioned like something slightly gospel. That is very much an In Theory characteristic as well. Very much inspired by that old gospel soul, that old soul of music, and I have to feel that comes with the Muscle Shoals influence, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that plays a big part of it because it's around you. It's around you, and it's especially I can say it's around you, and there's this. They call it the Muscle Shoals shuffle. There's a shuffle. There's a feel, and a lot of people can't hear it outside of the Shoals, but it's a certain rhythm. It's actually the same rhythm that, believe it or not, John Bonham has. That he has R&B shuffle. But he's John Bonham. Tunes it down. He's heavy, but the feel is that. So there's a lot of that. But again, maybe because we're also Zeppelin fans as well, and you think about all the bands that play, from Aerosmith to Rival Sons to Rolling Stones, and there is something that's similar with all these bands. There's a soul, there's a soul and a feel to it, and I think what this place brings out. It just brings out, for me, it brings out a soul, and then also the other way. I'm also wired where. Like no is not in my vocabulary, so I'm like, let's try this. I'm just a candy store. I just love creating and experimenting, and the fact that I get to work with the greatest players and singers. Look, Tony is one of the best for sure, you know. And I look at, you know, when we're doing a song, you know, I'm like a painter, and I get like the best brushes, I get the best, you know, types of paint to create my song, or create a song for In Theory. So the fact that, you know, I get a Tony or a Clayton, or in some tracks, you know, like, you know, we have Vinny Appice, to, you know, the guys from Stryper, to, you know, Brian, you know, World's on Fire. And so, you know, I think having, you know, this, you know, whatever, being exposed to all these tools to bring out the best is, you know, I couldn't ask for anything more as a writer, producer, guitarist. You know, it's, to me, it's just a lot of fun. Long hours, but a lot of fun.
Absolutely, it's got to be, you know, and it helps to have pros. You know, these guys are going to go in, they're going to give you what you want. It's going to, you know, they're going to make it sound great. There's, you know, it's, you paint with all the finest things, you get some pretty good art. You know, that's usually the way it works.
Right. Or you can look at it as, you know, you're a chef and you get the, you know, if you want to make a meal, you get the best ingredients, you get the best, and the peppers, and the, you know, the steaks. And that's, you know, another analogy of looking at it.
Right.
You know, but I also have to say, you know, I think as I think about it, and as we're progressing, I think a really big component is it's Tony and I. All right. So the chemistry of Tony's vocals and my guitar, you know, how I'm going to attack the guitar, the tone of my guitar versus the tone of his voice, his cadences versus my cadences. And like, you know, it's like, I always, you know, my best analogy is like when you look at so many bands, you know, you know, Zeppelin, you know, like Page is, you know, killer, and Plant is killer. But you take out Page, you take out Plant, they're not Zeppelin. You know, Aerosmith, Perry, I mean, come on, it's Perry, you know, and Steven Tyler. But Steven Tyler's not the same without Joe Perry.
Nope.
And you can do the same for Van Halen. You can say for, you know, all our favorite bands, you know, like the Extreme, you take Nuno out, you know, Extreme's not the same. You take Gary Sharon out, it's not the same. And I really think that's the magic also of In Theory, is the chemistry that Tony and I have. It's that, you know, sometimes it's a love-hate, sometimes there's a friction, sometimes we're like on the same page, but, you know, but that's how all great relationships are. You know, there's a pull. And I think I really think that combined with the layers that, you know, we can do from a production standpoint is what makes us, you know, us In Theory.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about chemistry. So much of music is about chemistry. You know, you can put all the great players in a room, doesn't mean they're going to make great songs. You got to have that something, that magic, that chemistry, and understand each other and be able to play off of each other and recognize different qualities in their sound, whatever that sound might come from. You know, be it a bass or a guitar or a voice or whatever. You know, that's, I think, really where great magical things happen. You guys get that for sure.
And I think, like I said, as time is going on, even though we do have now like pretty much a solid core of what our live lineup is, but from the start of In Theory, you know, with the first record and singles to where we are now, if you think about it, you know, we've had Vinny Appice as a drummer. We've had, you know, Andy, who's from, you know, Missing Persons and Frankie Valli and Sebastian Bach, and you know, this guy Justin, who's a Muscle Shoals guy, and he's got that R&B feel. And then Brian, who's our current drummer, you know, who's you'll see always live with us now. You know, he's a drummer from Pink and Shooter Jennings as well. Completely different feels, you know, and the bass player has been a completely different feel. There's, you know, a lot of the early In Theory was this young kid that very much plays like John Paul Jones meets the bass player from Stone Temple Pilots, has that feel. And then after that I had Perry Richardson from Stryper do bass. Yeah. But on My Soul and Worlds on Fire, I'm the bass player.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So, right. And so but no matter what we do, it still sounds like In Theory. And that's why it's always the chemistry of Tony and I, you know, as a no matter which drummer, bassist, keyboardist, and so forth. Because again, let's say like on Worlds on Fire, on the verses, I'm playing keys as well through a distortion pedal. Now you're seeing a theme. I'm using a distortion pedal a lot on everything. Our main guy, our keyboardist had cancer, so but wanted to get the tracks done, so I got a Hammond patch, and then I ran through distortion to like really try to simulate a Hammond, and then the engineer did the keys on the verse that sounds like a new wave thing, and then Worlds of Fire is the only song where now we brought in this guy. His name is Jones Nelson, and you'll see him on the road with us as well. And he did all the harmonies, and he added a gospel. He was able to hit the high notes of and the lower notes of Tony. And I had him do like 30 vocals, but if you hear that section, I think it's "What You Doing," whatever it is, right before the solo. Now we're back to the gospel feel, but again, it's a completely different backup singer.
That was cool. And that's one of the first things I noticed was the vocal tracks, the effects, the layering, the background vocal thing. It's very vocally driven. And then you get that guitar solo in there, man. It blends so nicely with all the stuff that's going on. Again, chemistry. Recognizing how all of those pieces fit together, that vocal and the guitar, especially is, it's a special thing, man. It's very cool.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. Um, what's the lyrical inspiration behind the song? Uh, it's chaotic. What inspires the lyrics behind the song?
It was a little bit more, with Tony, when you read when you say read the news, you see the news, and you see what's going on with the world, and it just seems like a lot of chaos. That's really boils down to that. I mean, it's crazy times out there.
It is,
and I think for me, it's crazy times, but with all the technology, these crazy times are always in your face.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on your phone, you could go and put the TV on. You'll see it, right? You'll see the wars. You see,
whether you want to or not.
Yeah, it's in your face 24/7, unless you try to shut it off. But you're always reminded. It could be anything, from the financial aspects of the economy, I know this is so many things, I'll drive around in Muscle Shoals, and it's like it's every 2 Fridays, and one of these days I'm going to do a post on it. But to me, it's another way of saying there's chaos. I mean, it's what a state of union. Like, I drive a mile down the street, Scott, and there's literally 400 to 500 cars backed up to go to the food shelter. In the United States, we don't have enough money to feed the family. Families have to go out there. It's but again, as I'm saying, I'm reminded of that. I get to see it in person. You see it on the news, but I'll drive by there's a hospital, Helen Keller, and I'll see it, and it goes for like blocks and blocks, and people waiting 6-7 hours just to get a box of food so they can feed their family. And and to me, it's terrible, but it's also, there's something that goes back to the new song "Promised Land" that we're going to be releasing. And there's a line in that song that's so poignant to that, and it's basically saying, what happens if you're the last in line, right? And in all aspects. But I think about, again, when I'm driving by and I'm seeing that, what if your car, number 705, and they only have food up to 700? What happens to your family?
Right.
That means you're going to starve,
Yeah.
That's, like you said, going to school, and you only have X amount of, scholarships, or, it gets cut off now? What, your kid doesn't get to go to school, or there's just so many things that are like that. What happens if you're the last, at the end of that line? Not everybody's in the front of the line.
Nope. Yeah. Yeah. And it's all of that stuff, we're faced with that every day. And not a lot of, not everybody sees that. But to lay eyes on it, especially, is a frightening thing. It's, and to speak to that is great. You mentioned a new single, Promised Land. When can we expect that one?
That's coming out April 12th, and that will not only be a single, but it will also be Promised Land, the CD EP. There's actually 6 songs on it. And and what we're also very excited to announce, Worlds on Fire is already on that platform, but Promised Land is really like the first where we're going to do a big push. But we got picked up by Orchard, which is a division of Sony Music, and that's big news for us. A big leap.
Awesome.
And then also in between, you'll see the next 3 weeks or next 3 Fridays, we did remasters of remixes of The River, Heroes, and Stain. So that will be on again on Orchard, only on that platform. So if people want the original, they can buy our first CD. But if they want to get the new digital one, they can get that through all the platforms out there. But every Friday, I think starting this Friday, you'll see one of the songs. So you'll see now you have Worlds of Fires available, and then the remaster of Heroes, and then River, and then Stain on My Soul, and then April 12th on the digital platforms, Promised Land comes out, and also the physical CD comes out.
Ah, that's awesome. That is such great news, man. Yeah, Orchard's it is huge now. They're doing wonderful things. It's great.
Yeah, and I thought I was a big pain in the ass and being meticulous to details, and they're giving me a run for my money for sure. But I appreciate that because
Mhm.
they want it. Our success is so important to them. Is part of their success, and vice versa.
Yep.
So I really appreciate that, how much care they're putting in to, especially into Promised Land, and how we're going to release these remasters. But their eye to detail and strategic planning, we just think it's going to really blow up in that world for us. And then you tie in what we do on the radio and podcast world, with Jody and Tim. So we feel like we have the best of both. So we have where we're charting on the radio, but now we also have such a strong team on the digital. And then on top of that, let's go on the road, with some of our idols. Let's get out there as well. So we're really just hitting it on all cylinders at this point. And there's no stopping the machine. Where right now everything is right where we want it, and now it's just steam ahead.
Man, that is such great news. And we've known each other for quite a while now, and when the first time we spoke, that was quite a few years back now. That wasn't what was that?
It was like 30 years ago.
Not quite, but it's been a while.
I think it's probably been about at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think so. And it was different. It's always a struggle. I mean, for bands of any size, really, there's always some struggle. Even the huge bands struggle with huge different kinds of problems. But for an up and coming band that isn't world renowned, there's a set of struggles. And when you get things like this happening and things starting to go in the right direction, and the train wheels start moving, and you feel like you can get down the track a little, that's a great feeling, man. And I can feel it in this. That's all great news, man.
I mean, we're relentless about moving forward. Like, it's just, I never stop. I mean, and then I know from running businesses and just, my DNA as well. Never stop moving forward. It's like, I don't care whether you're doing music or business or in life, some days you're just going to move quarter inch. Some days you'll move a mile,
Right.
but you always move forward. And that's the philosophy that I instill in theory. It's like, it's just nothing, I don't get, even, but like you said, there's a lot of problems and there's always a lot of roadblocks, but it never, in fact, if anything, it motivates me more. I never get like defeated by it. I'm like, okay, this thing's trying to stop me, or this roadblock's trying to stop me. Okay, now I'm really gonna steamroll you, And but I always just keep going and going and going. And I mean, literally, my day is 24/7. Dealing with the different aspects of, I call it the in theory business. There's, there's
Sure.
the music end of it. There's the radio end of it. There's the doing the shows. There's just so many elements, and everything has to be. You have to keep your eye on everything, and one thing affects all the other things,
Yeah.
and that's what you have to have all your cylinders on the right. Everybody's got to be a well-oiled machine, And so again, you take out one cog of the machine, it's not working right.
Yep. Yep. I've done some interviews with bands that are independent. They do all of this stuff themselves. They organize tours. They publish their own records. They promote their own records. They're doing all of this stuff themselves, and it's like, what kind of freaking nature are you? This is a very, very difficult process, and I think a lot of fans, we hear the music, we love the band, and then come to my town and play, and it's all simple. It's it's a very difficult process.
Right. Yeah, and it's the only business, if you really think about it, where here you call your band a product, like that people can love your band, but they can also listen to you for free.
Right, right.
You know?
That's a thing, and that's changed over the years, where that wasn't always the option. You went out and supported your band. There was times where I bought two of these because I liked the band so much. I bought it twice. That was part of what you did. Uh, Not so much anymore. You know.
Right, and we do. Like I said, we're doing some things where we're taking the best of um, the new technology, and we're keeping, old school philosophy of business and marketing. And I think we're able to meld both. So the fact that we have, Orchard, doing their thing with us, and exploiting us on the digital platform, which you'll see shortly. But if you watch what we also do, and we're very deliberate about it, we're also always driving people to come back to our site, because they can experience many things, right? So we also have a SoundCloud player that actually has 9 songs. Again, you can't download it, but you can listen to In Theory as a record.
Mm-hmm.
So we give the record experience. But if they want to buy it as singles, they can do that as well. And now we're giving them 2 options. If they want to buy the CDs, that goes directly to the band. And then on that page, if they want to buy shirts and other merchandise, we're always driving people to that. Because I think that's just as important. While it is a singles world, you want the people to have a record experience. It's a different journey than just listening to a single.
Yeah, I know. I love that. I'm old school. I think it comes a little bit with age. The younger kids didn't have that experience that we had, I think, as much anyway. But yeah, I mean, I remember it being in an event, getting a record, going to buy it, unwrapping it, looking at the art while it ran, and I went on a journey. It started in one place, went to some other places, and then came to a finish. The whole thing was a journey. Yeah, I miss that. And I hope that some of our young people can experience some of that, and you guys do that.
balance. I think, like you're saying, about unwrapping the record, and like I said, we're opening with Angel. I still remember that on that what's that record? On Earth as It Is on Heaven. I see the logo. You can put it upside down and see the logo.
Yep.
And but the other thing too, because of technology and the internet, you can see these bands all the time. So now that's taken away. Then in the past, remember, you would buy the record, and then you don't know when they're going to be coming to your town.
And you
And
never saw them either. You never saw them on TV. Yeah, I mean, to just see them at all. Like if I remember, like there was Don Kirshner's rock concert in the midnight special. I waited up for in front of the TV for hours before it came on.
that was the other thing too, right?
What was
Or
that?
you know who was going to be on that night on
Right.
Don Kirshner's show, or the midnight show. I think midnight show is on Fridays, right? And Don Kirshner was on Saturday. But and then the only other access that they had to the band was like maybe Circus Magazine or Cream Magazine, Rolling Stone, but there wasn't like I don't know. I think it created more anticipation for the band, and
Mhm.
then finally, then like it's like this whole buildup of anticipation. All of a sudden, they're coming to your town, and then you buy the ticket, and you're waiting because you buy the ticket 3 or 4 months in advance,
Hey,
and you're waiting, and you can't wait, and you tell everybody, I'm going to go see Zeppelin, or I'm going to see whatever, XYZ band. And that, you're building it up, and you're playing the records in your car. Or, I mean, not records in the car, probably cassettes at that time,
right.
or maybe 8-track,
Eight tracks. Yeah.
or spinning the record, I mean, all these records literally scratch it, you know. But anyway, but you created such an anticipation that
Mhm.
I can't wait to see this band. I can't wait to see this band. And again, there's no other access to it. The only thing is maybe you read one article in Circus Magazine, or a half a page in Cream. And then when you see them, and then you have that experience, and then that's your experience.
Yes.
Like it's almost like they sang to you. And then you get to, again, it's not even like bragging rights, but then that was your experience. And you share that with everybody else. You're like, like, I just saw Zeppelin, man. I was there. And people still are like that. Man, like, I saw Zeppelin 75 in Madison Square Garden. Did you see? I was there. And I think there's a little bit less of that, these days. And it's too bad. It's
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's great, to pull up YouTube and see your favorite band in any capacity you want. You can see the whole show. You can see one song. You can see them in every state. Uh, but that takes away from that event, that excitement, that, anticipation. Because when we got tickets for a live show, the lights went down. You knew they were going to be there in front of you. You haven't seen them for years.
the lights go down, that adrenaline, like, the first song.
Oh, and you finally get to see them. The only way you would ever see them is through in a magazine, maybe. It's very rarely that you had those bands on TV. And there was no other outlet for that. So, you've been looking at the pictures of this band and listening to the music. Now they're actually in the same building as you. That was an event. It really was. It was breathtaking.
Go with your friends, 4 or 5 friends in the car, and
Yeah, it was breathtaking. It really was. And it'd be nice to get back to that. You know.
and unfortunately, like I said, but unfortunately, but unfortunately, that's you can see, like you said, you can see now, 50 clips of somebody, at that show at the Madison Square Garden or whatever, but it's still not the same experience, and I still don't get that. I don't care if it's old generation, new generation. If I'm going to go see a band, I'm not holding up a cell phone to go videotape it. I want to experience the band. That's what I'm going to see. But so I know when I do see those clips, I know I take it with a grain of salt. I just don't. It's not an experience for me. It's just like, that's cool.
Right, right. It's very casual for me as well. And being a photographer, I do see a lot of shows with something in front of my face. I see it through a little box. And people have said to me, God, you're so lucky, and I am. I would never claim otherwise. I'm in the pit. There's band members practically almost stepping on my fingers while I'm there. Being that close and having that energy is special for sure. But when I'm shooting, I'm working kind of. Was that?
don't get to enjoy the show as much.
Right. Yeah. A lot of times it's like white noise, because I'm not really hearing the show because I'm worrying about that spotlight and when he's going to put his head in front of it so I can get the shot. And, when's that front light going to come on? Is it in a pattern? It's ridiculous what.
For 1 second, but the cool thing with your pictures, I've seen a lot of your pictures, is when I've looked at your pictures, you feel like you're at the concert. You capture that.
Thank you. That is my mission.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen, I am a fan of yours as a photographer, and I'm like, yeah, that's what it would feel like if I was just there rocking out to a band, and you're able to capture that, which is magical.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I like my pictures to make noise. I like to tell people, my picture should make some noise for you. You should hear it.
Your pictures, make you feel, just like music makes you feel. Your pictures create an emotion.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. That's that is really my mission when I go. I want to put that person who can't be there into the show, plug them into the show, because I think everybody should experience it. When I was a kid, my brothers took me to shows. When I was 8, I saw a ton of shows, and it changed my life. I think everybody should experience live music, man. There's nothing quite like it.
Yeah, it's nothing like, the emotion and energy being transferred from the artist to the listener to the fan, and again, the fans are also feeding back the energy to the artist.
Totally.
Mutual experience, and that's the thing that, like we said, like when you watch it on the internet, you're not capturing that, from a cell phone. You have to be in person to get that.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some things that I will see like in a clip, things like, Rock in Rio, where you have 200, 300,000 people all chanting, to an Iron Maiden track or something, and they're all in spirit with the band, and there's this bond between these tiny 5 people up there, 6 people, and 200,000 people, and they're all on the same page. That is powerful.
Yeah.
To be in that would be, my heart would beat out of my chest. That's one of those things.
Yeah, whether you're on stage or you're part of the crowd, it's the same emotion. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. The live setting, you guys are going out on the road. You're going out with Angel. You're doing some headline dates. How extensive is this going to be? Are you going to be out on the road for a while? You're adding more dates?
Well, dates are being added literally daily. I know that we say it all, but they are. Like I already know that there's another 7 shows that we haven't even posted yet. So we're confirmed. There's some things that we have to work out, contractual wise, but I'd say that they're already confirmed. But it looks like we're just going to keep adding and adding, as long as it makes sense to us. But I know May is going to be a pretty heavy month for us, and then June, so then we'll see how it goes at that point, But I also think by that point, the Orchard, Sony folks doing their thing, what's going on live wise and what's going on with radio should be propelling us to, to bigger and better things. So I see the momentum. It's just going to keep building and building. So I can see this as the, while we'll call it the World's on Fire tour, I can see it going on for quite a bit, this is so much forward motion, and it's, whether it's combustible, it's just going, and I at some point it just keeps rolling. And I think right now we're on that, we finally climbed up the hill and we're on top of the hill and now we're ready to go down. And while we're going down, we're getting that momentum and we're right on the tip of that. And that's how we're feeling like it'll be happening over the next year or 2 years.
Full steam ahead, man. I'm so happy for you, Mike. This is awesome, man. It's so cool. Everybody out there, check them out. Look for them in your city. InTheoryOriginal.com. The In Theory Band, Mike Mostert, Tony Covino. Man, I look so forward to seeing you guys. It's great seeing you guys on the road and having all the success. Man, I can't wait to see that train just rolling full steam ahead, man.
Yeah, we're excited. We're definitely excited to do it.
Yeah, cool. All right, Mike.
All right,
Have a great day, man. I'll see you soon. Thanks so much. It's always a pleasure, man.
have a good one, Scott.
All right, you too. Bye bye.